Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools for transformation, positivity, joy, and hope. They should not be used to replace your legal or medical advice. Welcome to Angel Heart Radio, where we celebrate you. We celebrate your divine connection. We celebrate your magnificence. We celebrate you as a beautiful being here on planet Earth, sharing your love and your light. We are so blessed to have amazing hosts here on Angel Heart Radio. We fan your seeds of hope and we help you to plant more. AngelHeartRadio.com is our station and AngelLight777.com is our big sister. All the links, the series, host information, how to visit us, and really how to receive the best from Angel Heart Radio, and a whole lot more besides. Thank you for choosing to be with us on Angel Heart Radio. We're so grateful to share with you. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com.
Welcome everyone.
Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools for...
Welcome everyone to Angel Heart Radio. I'm your host, Deb Goldberg, and it brings me great pleasure to be here with you today. And it's an honor to serve you in the highest ways that I can by bringing you messages of divine love and blessings for your life. You are dearly loved, cherished, and blessed. We have a very powerful show for you tonight. I'm so excited to share my guest with you. Imagine the courage one has to have to change gender and endure all that it entails psychologically, physically, and spiritually. This is Rajee Narensingh's amazing journey. Tonight, Rajee will help close the gap in understanding why someone chooses such a life-altering event and how her spiritual grounding helps support the difficult road she traveled and led her to her divine calling as an activist for equality for transgendered people. Rajee is a beautiful soul and amazing heart-centered with a great sense of humor. I'm so happy to bring her here with me tonight. She's an American Transgendered Actress, Transgendered Activist, advocate for the LGBTQ community for nearly 2 decades now. She's an author of Beyond Face Value, a singer, a spiritualist, and reality television personality, most known for her appearances on the E! Entertainment docuseries Botched. I am so happy to have you here, Rajee, and introduce you to our listeners on Angel Heart Radio.
Well, hello, everyone. Love, peace, and blessings. And it is an absolute honor to be on Angel Heart Radio this evening. Oh my goodness. So wherever you are in the world, it might be morning, but it's great to be here.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, we have such an incredible topic and your life to talk about. But right before we get started, I want to tell people about the other podcast hosts that are on Angel Heart Radio, because it is a pretty diverse platform of so many different podcast hosts and bringing lots of different topics and stories to our listeners. And Anaya Joy Holili is the founder of Angel Heart Radio. She's a certified angel intuitive, and she has a show called The Vision of Angels with Carol Ann Cross. And they bring on lots of people to hear about their stories about how they connected with angels. We have Annette McCoy as a host, Marsha Martin, Karen Palmer, Catherine Hahn, and hopefully soon we'll have Terry Angel on as a podcast host. Yeah, and you're good friends with Terry, so you know.
I am. I love Terry. So I'm excited about that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's just awesome and brings so much incredible warmth and love and divine messages to everybody. So she'll just fit right in, and it's just going to be another beautiful team member for us.
Yeah, I actually had her as a guest at my monthly spiritual group here in South Florida. It's called Transcend. And she was actually our first guest. I started at the beginning of the year. And when I tell you, she had such wonderful messages for everyone that attended the group. And this is so funny. She comes to me and she tells me, the angels are telling me to say teddy bear. And I'm looking at her like she's crazy. I'm like, teddy bear? And she's like, yeah, they keep saying teddy bear, teddy bear. And then all of a sudden it hit me. I have a big, humongous teddy bear on my bed that I sleep with that no one knows about. And I was like, okay, this is real. The angels are real.
Oh, what a great story. That's awesome. Yeah,
because sometimes it takes a little bit to connect. And I'm looking at her like, what on earth are you talking about? And then it was like a floodgate. They opened, I was like, oh my God, I have a humongous life-size teddy bear on my bed. So it was just such a wonderful experience and very affirming for me in that moment.
Well, that's really beautiful. It's so nice when that happens. It is it's very heartwarming. So, not everyone is living an authentic life and following their soul's path, but Rajee is, and I really wanted to share her with you because it's so different than mainstream, and her story is so important. And I think that you sharing your story with everyone of how you got to this moment will really impact people in their heart and open their minds, expand their minds some more. So will you please share your story with us?
Sure. Well, I guess I could share a little bit of my story because, we're all walking books and there's so much to my story. But just so that people get an understanding, I was about the age of 4 when I started to hear names that didn't make me feel so good. I didn't know what the names meant, but I knew that I didn't like the energy that was behind the name calling. And they were names like faggot and sissy. 4 years old, I had no idea what these names meant. But I could see my little 4-year-old self like it was just yesterday, going up to Mr. Pembleton. He was like one of the popular neighbors in the neighborhood. He was a fireman, and all the kids loved to hang out by his garage. And I remember looking up at him and saying, Mr. Pembleton, what does faggot mean? And he looks down at me in like utter surprise. And he's like, why on earth are you asking me that question? And I said to him, well, that's what all the kids are calling me. He never answered my question, but he said to me, pointing his finger, don't you pay attention to what those kids are saying? And based on that response, I knew whatever faggot meant couldn't be a good thing. And that was the beginning of relentless years of bullying. I then turned 5 and I got into school. And, me being a multiracial individual, I looked very different than the other kids. And then me being an effeminate little boy, that made me stick out like a sore thumb. So I was definitely targeted. The thing about gender is if you look around the world, every society has their gender rules. The way a boy is supposed to act in that society, the way a girl is supposed to act in that society, the role of a male, the role of a female in that society. So if you're someone that kind of is falling somewhere in the middle, oftentimes you're going to be subject to great discrimination. And a lot of my journey was filled with that. Not only name calling, but it actually got physical. I on 4 different occasions throughout my life, I've been physically attacked. It's almost like they felt like they could beat it out of me. And so from very young, it's like I've been in this battle, for lack of a better word, to stand in my truth and be my authentic self. And, the story, I actually have to pinch myself sometimes because I can't believe that I'm still here on the planet living my life. And I would say living a pretty dynamic life now. That's after going through a lot of strife and struggle. But the thing that got me through was the belief, the faith that, you know what, everyone, no matter who you are, is here for a divine reason. And I held on to that, even in days where I felt like I couldn't go on anymore. I didn't have a place in this world. Many of you may be familiar with the story of my black market injections. That story went viral around the world. I was on reality TV, Botched, 3 seasons. And, I in those moments when I was walking around with a really disfigured face, it was, I would probably say, the hardest time for me because it's hard enough being transgender in this world, but try being transgender with a disfigured face. And, people can be very superficial. And I kept thinking, like, God, like, why don't they see my love? Like, why don't they see my light? But like I said, holding on to the belief that, you know what, I'm here for a divine purpose, just like everyone else.
Yeah, and it's so amazing. So you're talking about understanding you were here for a divine purpose. When did spirituality or your connection with God or divinity in somewhere, when did that happen? Did you have that as a small child?
Well, it's funny because, and not really funny. It's really, it's spectacular. Actually, would be the proper word. From very young, I've always felt a connection to the divine. Now, I'm at the age of like 2, 3. I may have not known what that connection was, but it was a connection to something greater than myself. And I couldn't explain it. I grew up in a home where my father was Hindu. He was Indian and he practiced the Hindu religion. And my mother is Christian. And so we would go to church on Sunday with my mom, my sister, and I. And then we do pujas, Hindu prayers with my father. So religion wasn't so strict in my household. It was more like the message that my family gave me was, there's a God, there's something, bigger than what we are. And however you feel comfortable connecting with it, do so. So that really was helpful to me because I remember being 2 years old, probably, maybe a little older than 2, maybe 2.5. And my parents used to put me in the bed to sleep between them. Because, I guess I get cranky during the night or whatever. And my mom would just come and put me in the bed with them. And this one morning, I wake up and I sit up and my father is asleep, my mom's asleep. But I see these strange men in our room. And I'm looking at them. Who are these men? Like, I don't know. They're strange to me. I remember I'm only 2.5 years old. So I'm looking at them, and the one noticed that I woke up, and he tapped the other one on the shoulder and pointed to me and kind of smirked, like, "Look who's awake." And just in that moment, I heard a voice. It was a motherly type voice, very gentle, very comforting. And the voice said, "Go back to sleep, baby. Lay back down. Go back to sleep." And I followed the voice. And I was laying there, sucking on my thumb, staring at the guys, and I drifted to sleep. When I woke up, my parents were in the hallway with the police. I'm looking at my mother and in baby talk, like not being able to communicate with my parents, the experience that I had. And I remember my mom coming over to me and she's like, it's okay, it's okay. Some bad men broke into our house. And I couldn't tell her, like, oh my God, those men, at that age, I couldn't do any of that. But as I lived my life and in retrospect, I realized how divine that moment was for not only me, but my parents. Can you imagine if I woke my father up and my mother up, these strange men in our bedroom? I mean, Lord knows what they would have done. Guns on them or weapons. But the fact that I was led to fall back asleep, that was the most divine thing that could have happened in that moment, because it probably kept all of us alive. And look, I've lived so many years beyond that, and I've done so many things here on the planet. So that was my first, I would say, experience that I can remember with the angels and spirit.
That's a beautiful story. That's an amazing story. And really seeing it from the perspective of that, how the divine is always guiding us all the time, and that it is protecting you all the time. And it's okay. He just popped in and out.
Well, you see, I'm going to tell you, we are amazing beings. We went from the cave to the computer age. Computers still have glitches, so there you go.
They do, and hopefully your camera will come back on. There you go, are. And so,
I'm here.
yes, you are here, and it's all good. I was thinking, you did also mention, what happened with being on Botched, and that you had these injections that really disfigured your face and your body, right? I guess we popped off for a minute. So yeah,
we do.
yeah.
Can
So
you see?
almost it'll probably come on in a second.
Okay, I'm not seeing you, but as long as you can see me, it's good.
Well,
now you're back. Now you're back.
We can hear you. So
Okay.
yeah. So I was just saying about how you went through that whole experience of your face becoming disfigured. Like most people, they wouldn't go out of their house. They would not respond the same way. And you seem to, I'm not saying it didn't bother you, but I believe in what you've been describing is that you have been able to, you went through that with such a sense of humor, and really just trying to deal with the situation in such a great way.
Yes, I mean, I had my moments, like I was, saying, I had moments where I felt like I didn't have a place on the planet anymore. I didn't belong. I wanted to give up. I definitely have experienced PTSD. Depression is another thing that I've experienced. And the thing is, I would say, I'm so thankful to God that I held on, that I was able to have that mustard seed of faith that no, I'm here for a reason. I have a purpose. And so that was the thing that kept me going, but it wasn't easy. I mean, have our issues, and I certainly have mine. But just the way things kind of unfolded, I had about 10 years of really struggling with my face being.
I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but I'm sure she'll be back on.
I'll keep talking. I think I cut out again. But yeah, so it was like certainly a journey. And I think one of the things that I learned the most from that is that your beauty, and I know it's going to sound cliche, is really from within. That's where the true beauty is. That was a lesson that I learned. I always kind of knew that, but it truly was affirmed for me during that time. I remember my first season on Botch, they didn't do any surgeries. And I'm on Botch with my really disfigured face. And, of course, I had my makeup on and everything, but, they shared my story. And after that episode aired, so many people around the world um, sent me messages saying, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. Oh, you've touched me. You're such a beautiful person." And I hadn't had anything corrected. And I was like, wow, they're seeing the true beauty. They're seeing the beauty of my spirit, of my soul. So that was probably one life lesson I had to learn and also teach. Because, see, things that don't always look beautiful, it doesn't mean that they're not beautiful. You get it? So, we have certain standards of what we consider beauty to be or beauty to look like. And the reality is that there's so much beauty and many things that you may not even think is beautiful. So, or are beautiful. Yeah.
I totally agree. What a lesson. What an amazing lesson. And that's what this show is about, is really understanding your heart, and that the beauty is within each person. Yeah.
Because when it's all said and done, I mean, really, this is only temporary anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's eternal is our spirit. Mm-hmm. And as I've lived my life, I think that it's just continued to be affirmed for me, and so that's that's a powerful thing, because I know now truly that the thing that's eternal is my spirit, and that's where the beauty, where it really matters, where it really counts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. So
I'm sorry if we're cutting in and out, but I hope you all are hearing me.
yeah. As you've been cutting in and out, we've been coming back on fairly quickly. I don't know if it's a connection of some way. Well, there you go again. I'll just wait. It's all okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm back now. I don't know why this is doing this, but anyway.
Well, I don't know either, but everything's in divine order, and
divine order.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just leave it at that. So, what is your understanding from a spiritual point of view or higher consciousness, the meaning behind you experiencing a transgendered life?
Wow. So I think it's all relative to how you perceive. there are cultures around the world that honor what they call the third gender. So there's male, female, and there's a third gender. Cultures that for generations, I mean, it's entrenched or intertwined in their culture. For instance, Fiji is one of the cultures where they always acknowledged a third gender. Uh, Thailand is another place. Some parts of India, the Hijras, and here in America, the Native Americans, we're all two-spirited people. So I say all of that to say that it's all relative because there's many places in the world where people look at me like, maybe demonic or, lost. Or like a freak, but the thing is that before any of these labels, before me being multiracial, me being transgender, all the different labels, an activist, everything that I could be labeled, I am a divine spirit of this universe that is living the experience. And if you look at nature, nature is so diverse. Worms are transgender, male and female together. The oyster is transgender, male and female together. The male seahorse is the one that carries the babies. Caterpillars turn into beautiful butterflies. Here, that's an example. So why wouldn't we human beings be just as diverse? Why wouldn't we be? Mm-hmm. It took a long time, I should say, for me to come to this, I would say, this moment in my life where I'm confident and I hold my head up and I'm proud of who I am and what I represent. A lot of, I would say, soul searching and, just evolving and growing. And because when you're getting messages from young that what you are is wrong, from 4 years old, I'm getting these messages. That's pretty hard to transcend, to overcome. And I'm so thankful to God universe that I'm able to sit here and know that despite what people say about me, the negative things, or feeling like I don't have a place in the world, despite any of that, I know that I have a place in this world. I know my intentions are good. And so that's really what matters. But it's easier than done because from little we learn to have to please people because we're trying to please our parents. So we're considered that good kids or a good child. And and just this whole thing of like pleasing, we grow up and it carries into adulthood. And so I had a time in my life where I tried to please everyone, but it's impossible. You can't do it because the important thing is, I think that one of the most important things is intention. And if your intentions are good, that's all that matters. People will see your light. There will be people that will be able to see that.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And it's so true. It is so true.
Thank you.
What would you say to others that are thinking about changing their gender?
Okay, so I can't imagine a life I can't imagine a life not being able to be my true authentic self. And even in the short time that I tried to quote unquote conform, people saw right through me. I mean, it's an essence. It's not just putting on a dress or growing your hair out or putting on makeup or wearing wig, whatever. It's not just that. It's an essence that's inside of you. And so I would say to them that no matter how hard it may seem, things do get better, and to stand up in their truth. And if you need help and support, whether it's contacting the LGBTQ center in your area to try and get some, connected to some support group, or a family member that could possibly be supportive, but try to find some support to help you along the way in your journey. And most important, connect with spirit, because you will be led in your own unique divine journey. What's right for me may not be right for you. So connect with spirit and ask to be led, and you will be. You will get the answer. I want to. I wanted to say one other thing when it comes to being trans. You know, when you think about it, God is male and female together. It's a duality. So how about this? People that might have a problem with a trans person, maybe if you think about it in that way, like, hey, this person is here representing duality, male and female together in one, and the gift that can be. Because I have perspective from both sides. Like, I can think from a male perspective to an extent. I can really think from a So again, seeing the light in people, we all bring divine gifts to this planet, and we touch the planet in so many wonderful ways, but differently. I think one of the things that I've been for a lot of people, and maybe possibly it may be one of my spiritual missions here, this life, is to show people that love can come from someone like me. Love come from someone like me.
Most definitely.
That comes from that comes from the deepest part of my soul. I've had this thing in me for all of my life that I wanted to be able to touch people and touch the planet in through me being who I am. And I'm so thankful to God universe that on some level I've been able to do that in my own unique way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and doing it beautifully. Doing it your unique way. Yeah.
I just I feel so blessed because I have had like experiences throughout my life. I call them divine spiritual experiences. And especially when I've needed them the most. I remember laying in my bed, by some guys who targeted me because I was trans. because I am trans. And I remember laying in my bed, with two black eyes and a busted lip, bleeding, and pleading with God, universe, like, why am I this way? Like, why do I have to be like this? And blaming myself for being beat up because of the way I am. And I remember I just felt like I couldn't go on anymore. And I was crying like uncontrollably, that gut wrenching cry. And I remember all of a sudden, I heard a very gentle, but clear voice. And the voice said, balance, my child. And as soon as I heard those two words, it was like a floodgate of information. I'm like, oh my God, that's right. That's right. The universe is infinite. It's infinite. There's so much diversity in in the universe. And why wouldn't we human beings be? And 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 that's why there's, nature has a way of balancing itself and mutating and balancing itself. And why wouldn't there be heterosexual people and gay people and lesbian people and trans people and bisexual people? Because it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act of nature. And just all of this like surge of me being able to connect why I might be here on the planet this time as a trans person. And just then I felt my body. I felt my body lifting, and all of a sudden I was in the galaxies and I could see the stars. And I looked back and I saw planet Earth. And in that moment, I had no connection to planet Earth, like nothing material. I felt so whole and complete and happy and at peace. And all of a sudden, I looked ahead and there was this beautiful light that appeared before me. And it was so beautiful and warm and just loving. And it started to shower me in a rainbow. And I was in the middle of this rainbow, beautiful colors, reds and pinks and purple and green and blue. And just, I'm in the middle of this rainbow. And I looked back at I reached my arms out to go into the light. And just then, I felt a little tap in the center of my, like in my third eye area, a gentle tap. And I started to float back down into my body. When I share this story, some people, you can tell they're like, well, maybe it was a dream. I dream all the time. This was more than but if you call it a dream, it was a divine dream, a divine experience, a divine vision that I needed to have to give me the faith to go. And so it has just been amazing. I mean, I never forget that moment because I feel like I got a little sneak peek at the fourth dimension. And at that time, I was ready to go. I extended my arms into the light. But I think Spirit, God, Universe knew I had a lot of work to do here. Because I think now, if I had left then, oh my God, I would have not done there's so much work and many people I've touched and so much that I've done since that time. So yeah, absolutely amazing.
That is an incredible divine experience.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, we spirit, God universe has a way of letting us know, like, letting us know, giving us those messages when we most need it. The
Mhm.
angel, the angels are there and they're letting us know. I mean, and thank God. Thank goodness we have that.
Yes.
It's just so comforting to know that, they're there and they're, on the other side, there's a lot of great things happening and we're here on the planet doing our work, but it's just so great to be able to have that connection.
I totally agree. And that you can share such a beautiful story and have a higher perspective about what it is to be different.
Am I back?
Yes. Yeah, and to bring that perspective forward is so important, Rajee. And God's told me that he he gave us diversity to learn about love because we needed to understand the expansiveness of love, that it is not just one thing, and that it's diverse and it's so expansive and it's so infinite, and that when we try to look through everything as a mainstream issue, like if you're not mainstream, then there's something wrong. uh, and so we're here talking about this.
Yes.
We're talking about this because there it's not different. It's God's expansiveness of love, and it is diverse, and because we all think that we know how things should be, what things should look like, whatever, and we really know nothing. We know nothing about the infinite uh, diversity of divine love. So, what would you say to families of people that have children or friends, um, co-workers, or even society?
So, you
Yeah.
know,
How can you help them? And you're doing that now. How can you help them expand to break down stigmas or judgments, or walls
yeah, yeah.
around being transgendered?
So, for me, my family has been a mixed bag. I have family that love and support me, but then there's some families that don't. They're not able to accept me being trans. Um, my mother, I am just so thankful to God, universe, that I have the love and support of my mom. It was like maybe the pink elephant in the room when she didn't have an understanding of my transgenderism. I always felt like she was in my corner and she had my back, even when she didn't really understand, and wasn't able to completely accept me being trans. My dad, on the other hand, had a pretty hard time with it. I always felt like as a child that there was a resentment from him. I couldn't understand why. I didn't understand why. And I seemed like I could never do nothing. Nothing was ever good enough. And my dad, he had he was an alcoholic. He had a drinking problem, but he was functioning. He would go to work and he provided it just seemed like it was never enough for him. I remember being at my 8th grade graduation, and I was the kid that received the most awards. I think it was about 8 awards that I got. And the last award was the highest honor that a student could get out of the whole student body. And so when I stood up to get the award, people gave me a standing ovation. And I've always been very connected to my emotions. And so I started crying. Now, not boohoo crying, but I started crying a little. And after the graduation, I ran over to my parents, and my dad just turned his back and walked out. And I looked at my mom and I'm like, what did I do? I just won 8 awards. Like what? And I couldn't understand it. And we were supposed to go out to a Chinese restaurant to celebrate my graduation, but he said, no, we're going home. And my mom, she kind of whispered in my ear, don't worry, I'll go get the Chinese food and I'll bring it home for you. But it was like the whole point is I wanted to go out and celebrate. And so, for a child, that the message was no matter what I do, it's not good enough because here it is, I just won 8 awards and I'm being punished for it. And so, I use that one example of my dad and I and the dynamics that we had growing up when I was growing up to say that, as an adult, I realized like I was able to connect dots and come to the awareness that maybe, he wasn't able to accept the son that he got. He wasn't expecting a son like me. And unfortunately, he had his other issues that he brought to our experience between him and I. But, I know it must have been hard for him, because he probably had a concept of how it would be to have a son, and I wasn't meeting up to those standards. And so he had a rough time with it. Love has a way of failing. Before my father passed away, I remember he was in the hospital really sick that summer, and it was in 2004. And the doctor said he wasn't going to make it. I was calling home every day, checking in with my mom. He made it through the summer, and they sent him to a rehab in September. I was calling the rehab every day. And, my mom shared a moment that they had this one particular day that I called. When he hung up the phone after we talked, he looked at my mom and he says, my God, he was like, Rajan is calling every day. And, at the time, my sister she was married not too long, and she had my niece, and she was really busy with life, and she wasn't able to come to the rehab as much. And he looked at my mom and he said, I really thought my sister, mommy, I really thought she would have come more. And he says, look, Rajan is calling every day. And my mom looked at him and she said, see the child that you treated the way you did. And my mom said that his eyes welled up and he just nodded his head. And when he came home from the hospital, I would call home and I could hear him in the background. And as soon as he heard that was me on the phone, he'd want to talk with me. And I tell you, the stuff that my father was saying to me, I almost had to pinch myself because I couldn't believe it. I was looking at the phone like, my God, just such loving communication that I always wanted. And I remember it was Thanksgiving, and he started crying on the phone. We were talking, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I miss you, and you've been gone too long." And he said, "What do you think I worked my whole life for?" He says, "For you and your sister." He says, "This is your house, and I want you to come home." And honestly, seeing pictures of me, but it's one thing seeing pictures, and it's another thing seeing it live and in living color. And I was finally getting from my father what I always wanted. And I felt like, oh my God, if I go home, it's going to mess up. I'm going to mess it up. And I told him, I said, "Dad, I just started a new job," because at the time I was, and I said, "I don't really have much time." I said, "Let me work a little bit and I'll try and come in the spring." So, pardon me. So that was like a little excuse, that gave me some time. And I, I guess I stayed away out of love. But it was like, let me see if, as I talk to him more, if I think he's really ready for me to come. And it was so funny because before he hung up, he says, "Well, it's okay. Just come home. Just put on some clothes. Just put your hair back in the ponytail." And I'm thinking, that's not gonna make me a man. I might look like a butch woman, but I'm, because I had already started to alter my body. So anyway, it was 2 weeks into December. We're on the phone again, and he said to me, he says, "I worry so much about you." He says, "I just wish I knew you were going to be okay in this world." He says, "People can be so cruel to your type." And he says, I just want you to be okay." And he says, "Me and your mom, we won't be here. We're not going to always be here." And I said, "I know, Dad. I know." But it was like the death talk. And I just said, I know, but I have to live my life. I have to be my authentic self. And 2 weeks later, he passed away. It was 2 days before Christmas. But I was so thankful to God universe that we had that full circle moment.
Mm. Hmm. What an amazing story.
It really was a testament to the
Mhm.
fact that love truly does prevail. It
Mhm.
really does.
Yeah.
And all that we had gone through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, when it was time for him to transition, we had our moment. We had our full circle loving moment.
What a beautiful story.
And I say that to thank you so much. And I say that to say that, if you're dealing with someone trans that's a relative, a family member, a loved one,
Mhm.
the important thing is to remember that the person has always been the person.
Mhm.
Like I'm my mother's child. I've always had this personality. So even though in some ways she lost a son, she gained a daughter.
Mhm.
And the reality is I was always there from the beginning. I've always been the person that I am.
Mhm.
So I know some of you all may be familiar with Jazz Jennings. She has a reality show on TLC. And she's such a dynamic young lady. And she was such a dynamic young kid growing up. But I always remind people that she would not have been able to flourish and blossom the way she did if it was not for the support and love of her parents.
Mhm.
That's so powerful. And you know, in our community, suicide is very high. It's about 40 something percent. 40 something percent in the transgender community. I think it's 46%. Don't quote me. But, you know, I speak at many different venues. And I was recently at one, and a mother, she shared that, you know, it was difficult to accept her trans child, but it was a matter of life and death. And she said that she'd prefer to have her child be transgender than to have no child, to
Mm.
lose her completely, because that's how crucial it was and what this kid was going through and wanting to commit suicide. So she was, you know, she was thankful to still have her child. And if you're not able to fully understand or fully be able to support, reach out, go to some support group. I mean, the good thing about the world today is that we've evolved. Like there's so much. I remember when I was in high school, there wasn't any such thing as an LGBTQ youth group in high school. Now, so many of the high schools have those groups, you know, so we have come a long way. And I'm so thankful that I lived to see better days for us trans people here in this country in America. I don't forget about my trans people around the world, though. There's places where it is a matter of life and death every day, just being trans. Yes, I'm always sending out my prayers for my fellow trans sisters and brothers around the world.
That is so beautiful of you, and I know that you do a lot of work in getting out there, and with marches and helping support the community. It is very well needed, and so I'm very grateful for what you're doing, because it all comes down to that everybody's human, and everybody hurts and feels the same way. We're all the same, and it takes love to heal. Love heals everything, and it's acceptance that it's okay if somebody's different. um at times we all feel different. No, we don't have to have all these other issues that people deal with, but we each can feel that we're different or we don't fit in some way. And and
Yeah,
we all come from the same substance.
exactly, exactly. You know, I really do truly believe that we are here to learn how to love more and also learn how to receive love.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the big lessons in life. If you look around the world, doesn't matter. You know, there's always some group that's not being accepted because they're the minority, and the majorities wanting to. I mean, look around the world. Uganda, they slaughtered each other. They were all African, but it's just because I'm on one tribe, you're on the other. We're killing each other because of that. If you go to India, it's the class system.
Mhm.
Ireland, the Catholics and the Protestants. I mean, it's so, you know, it's a lot. I really believe it's a human lesson that we have to be able to love and respect each other for our differences and realize that the beauty of this world is the diversity.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really what makes the world so beautiful, the diversity.
It is. It is. And we don't realize that actually we ourselves are so diverse within inside our own selves. there's a whole universe living inside of us that is very diverse, that is at war with each other a lot within your own self. And so when we accept that we can have mixed emotions and different ideas about the same topic, we can think one way and a completely different way about the same thing. And so the diversity lives within inside ourselves too. And it's accepting all of it with love.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about your book, Beyond Face Value.
Yes, Beyond Face Value. You all get it? The face I walked around for years with, and it's Beyond Face Value, A Journey to True Beauty. So after my story went, and I was probably on about 30 something, featured on about 30 something different TV shows around the world. Online, the gossip sites and newspapers and all sorts of media attention, I realized that a lot of the world only knew about the Black market part of my life, piece of my life, the Black market injections and what happened to me. But I thought, my God, there's so much more to Rajee.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that it was important that I share my journey, from the beginning to basically where I am now. And it's pretty juicy if you all like a juicy read, because I talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I talk about my journey to enlightenment, I would say more enlightenment and my spirituality. I mean, it's so amazing how I grew up with being exposed to Hinduism and Christianity. And then in my early 20s, I became a practicing Buddhist. And then about the mid 20s, I kind of moved away from that. And I started to getting into all the spiritual gurus like Louise Hay, Marianne Williamson, and Gary Zukav, and all of the different, I call them gurus, spiritual gurus. And it just kind of led me along and just helped me to evolve and grow spiritually. Dr. Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind. So it's amazing. And I thankfully, I was able to tap into that because I think that that's been the core, the reason why I am still here and I am, living the dynamic life that I live now.
That's true. There's so much support out there, and it's finding what you connect with. I think, what the core
I
is
know what
really...
I call it. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's like soap. Okay, so you and I could walk down the soap aisle. I might like Coast soap because of the way it's packaged and the way it smells. You might get Dove, because you like the way it's packaged and this, that it's so soft. And that's how I look at the different spiritual teachers. It's like, one teacher may resonate with a certain, and then with someone else, it doesn't resonate, but then someone else may be able to connect with that person. So it's kind of like all the same beautiful spirituality, but just packaged differently,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, what's most important is that you're centered in God or whatever divinity you believe in. And so centering yourself in that divine love, and then outside getting support with whomever you connect with, like what you're saying, is that there's something out there for everybody. That's another gift from God, is that God has given us all this diversity in helping us awake, right? Awaken to higher consciousness and understanding the truth of who we are. So what are you gonna do next? What are you doing going forward?
Wow. Well, I have a lot of different things that I've got in the works, that I'm involved in. I'm on 3 different boards here in South Florida. I do a lot of activism with a number of different a number of different organizations. And, I continue to go and do my public speaking. I speak at a number of different venues. I have my book out that I continue to promote. I've actually, I did 2 films. One was an acting thing, a little role, but it was kind of a fun role to play. I played the role of a creepy real estate agent. And then the other movie was a documentary called Body Electric that'll probably come out sometime next year. And the thing about the acting is that I went to a performing arts high school in Philadelphia. And I took, actually, it was a magnet school. So I took health sciences and then performing arts. I always had like this creative thing about me. And I think that what's interesting about my life is that I've also always had a humanitarian spirit, because in high school I volunteered at the community hospital, the Red Cross, the United Way. And so what I've done throughout my life is I've merged the two, my humanitarian activism with my creativity. And it's kind of like intertwined throughout my journey, that I've merged, the two of them. But I think that, the important thing for me is that no matter what I do, that it's doing to impact the people around me in an uplifting and positive way. I always, when I pray, I always ask that I'm able to do that. Like I'm able to touch people through my presence and my existence with divine love and divine peace and divine joy and divine inspiration, inspire people. And, it's funny because I had dreams of like, when I was in high school and the performing arts, of being in the movies and being on TV. Then after like happened to my face, I thought for a minute that those dreams were gone. Like I wouldn't be able to do that because of my. Look how spirit works. Look how manifestation is. I ended up on more TV shows. Like I said, it was about 35 different TV shows. I've been in some films. I have a book out. It's funny, just when you think like, you want to give up on life and those dreams weren't possible, it has a way of manifesting it in ways that you never even imagined. Like, you never even imagine. So sometimes like you may desire something and you have in your mind the way it's supposed to manifest. But the key is to, release it into the universe and let the magic. And that's what's happened with me. I mean, just amazing. Like I hear from people in Pakistan and Africa and South America, Australia. I mean, all over that have, said that they were touched by me in some way, in a positive way. And so it's just been phenomenal. Maybe it didn't play out the way I thought it would, but I still, when it's all said and done, it all kind of manifested to enable me to still do what I wanted to do and touch the world through my creativity and my activism. And I'm going to share something with you all. So in 2000, in November of 2011, my story went viral. And that's when I was thrusted into the world media. A month and a half before that, I had a friend that was friends with, well, she was actually dating a national radio host here in America. And we were talking, and I was saying to her, girl, I'm doing so much activism here in South Florida, but I just feel like I need to do more. I need to touch more of the world. Like I need a national platform. And so she says, you know what? Let me talk to my boyfriend. I'll tell him about your story and what you're doing. Maybe I can get you on the radio for a little bit, national radio. So a couple days went by. I didn't hear anything from her. A week went by. And then finally we connected. And she says, oh, girl, I told like I told him about your story and who you are and what you're doing, and he just really doesn't think that the listening audience would be that interested. Well, when I tell you, I was so deflated and I felt so down, and I hung up with her, and I remember sitting and talking with the universe and God, and I was praying, and I said, I just kind of like, in a very like strong and forceful way, I said, I don't care what he thinks and what she said to me. I know I'm supposed to be doing more and I'm supposed to touch more people. And I said, I don't care, but I want it to happen. And I just like, so I made the declaration and I said, I don't care. I'm going to keep on doing what I do. And I know, I trust and believe and know that my story and what I've been through and who I am is meant to touch more people and will. And so then I kind of released it and kind of just forgot about it and I carried on. Well, don't you know, a month and a half later, I end up on Dr. Phil, Anderson Cooper, CNN, Germany TV, Japanese TV, and all of this stuff was happening. And then in the middle of it, I thought, oh my God, the heck with national radio. I want to see it. So manifestation is very interesting.
It sure is.
So I wanted national radio, and universe said, "Oh no, you're bigger than that. We're going to give you TV, Japanese TV, CNN, reality TV." So you see, that's what I meant about wanting something, desiring something, and in your mind you have a way, the way it's supposed to manifest, but the universe may have something so much greater for you than you could even imagine.
What an amazing story, Rajee. Filled with miracles and hope, and yes, some heartache and difficult times, but coming through it. Coming through in a profound way of bringing hope to other people.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. And I'm sorry I kept cutting out. I don't know what the heck that is, but like you said, divine order. And I'm trusting that
Mhm.
whoever was listening, they got something good out of this.
Oh
even
my goodness.
even if it was between the cuts in and out.
Well, maybe it's just pausing so that people can really take in all of your beautiful story.
Oh, see, that's why I love you so much. And that's why I feel so blessed to be a part of your show this evening.
Aw. Well, I feel very blessed to have you here. And really, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you here with us and share your story of just divine love showing out in your life all through it.
Thank you so much. And I feel like you saying that is like an affirmation for me. It just affirms that my prayers are being answered because I truly do. That is like one of my prayers every day. That when you're at someone's funeral, you don't really think about the car they drove, the clothes they wore, the house they lived in, the makeup that they had on. What you think about is how that person touched your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people think about when they're at someone's funeral. How did that person impact me? And so I always stay very conscious and aware of that. And I try to carry on in that vein, really being mindful of the energy that I'm putting out into the world.
Well, we can feel it, and it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful because, and I'm going to wait till you come back on. Rajee,
Yes.
thank you for
Oh,
being in this world with us and being here to break down walls of separation.
well, you're very welcome. And thank you for being able to see my love and light. And I hope that whoever was watching, whoever was listening, that, they can too also feel my love. And I just want to say love, peace, and blessings to every soul on the planet.
Amen. Amen. Can you share with us how people could get a hold of you, how they can get in touch with you if they'd like?
Oh, sure, sure. Well, if you Google Rajee, I'll pop right up. But I'm on Instagram. It's Rajee_actress at from Botched TV. If you put Rajee, I should. Yeah, so follow me on my Instagram. If you put Rajee, I should pop right up. And the same with Facebook too. It's Rajee Narinesingh. I have a few Facebook pages, but the longest one, when you put Rajee, the longest one that pops up, that's my main page. So please follow me. I'd love to hear from you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a privilege to have you here with us. And you can stay on while I'm closing the show. Okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay. When in doubt, never underestimate the power of prayer. You are being listened to and heard throughout the universe, and it always responds with infinite and eternal love. Remember to go inside and listen through your heart for the whispers of heaven. God bless you, and I love you.
Listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. You can check out who's on, when we're on, and who our guests are at angelheartradio.com. Everything is there. It's all just one click away. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools to help you in your life and your life experience. They are not intended, nor should they be used to replace your medical or legal advice.
Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com. The views and opinions expressed by Angel Heart Radio hosts, guests, co-hosts and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.